Hi, my name is Brett Hoffman, and today I am back inside of the Ahorn Celeste level editor, here to talk a little bit more about some of the different things you can add to your level in order to make it more mechanically and visually interesting. Last time I touched on the Ahorn's level editor, I talked a little bit about how to make the bare bones of your level work, including placing down player spawns, making background and foreground tiles for the player to walk on and in front of, as well as just generally how to save and use the level editor as a whole. So starting off, every time that you want to create something inside the world that is not necessarily a tile for a player to stand on, whether it be something that they can interact with or something that makes the background or foreground look a little bit nicer, we're going to use this placements menu. This placement menu is broken down further into 4 separate menus of entities, triggers, foreground decals, and background decals. For the purpose of this video, we're going to ignore triggers for potentially a later video, and focus a little bit more on the entities and background details most often, because those ones are going to be ones that are used much more often than the latter. So, coming off of the most recent level that I developed, a lot of the entities that I have available are already highlighted. For example, these are things that I might use a lot often, such as strawberries, which can be placed directly in the level just by clicking on strawberry and then placing it down. I can do the same thing with things like dash refill crystals, as well as springs. If I go ahead and save this level, and open it up inside of Celeste, you'll see that all of these are here, function the same way that they do in the base game of Celeste. Dash crystal comes back in a few seconds, spring propels me upwards, and the strawberry can be collected for points as well as added to our total. Now, in order to actually get these items highlighted for extensive use inside of the level editor, all that you need to do is underneath the proper layer, you'll want to go ahead and search up for the one that you want. For example, say that I wanted to make a level based on the 7th chapter of the game. I would need the boosters that show up in the level. And inside the game, these are called battle and boosts. So, in order to make sure that that's the right one, I go and bring it to the level, save, and test it out real quick. Yep, that's exactly the right thing I need. So all I need to do is double click it here in the editor, and now it will always show up on top of every other item that I could possibly select from, including things that are added in by mods. Now, for the sake of creating early on the Celeste levels, I wouldn't recommend that anybody use any modded in entities or otherwise, for players cannot play the level unless they have all requisite mods for whatever is placed inside of it. Additionally, mods can add a bit of confusion for players if they are not properly introduced. Now then, let's say that I don't like this setup for my level anymore. I want to get rid of some of this stuff. All I have to do in order to do that is go from placements over to selection, which happens to have an option to select everything, including different tiles, background and foreground, entities, triggers, as well as all sorts of decals. For now, I just want to clear this room of all of these 3 items, so I can click on them directly while underneath the entities selection, and then I can just press delete on my keyboard, and they're completely removed from the scene. Now then, that's everything that you would need to know about entities. So long as you understand how the mechanics work inside of the game, a lot of these are very self-explanatory and will actually set themselves up automatically. For example, the watchtowers that are seen in the game happen to go ahead and turn the entire screen that they're placed on into a bounding box that can be used for the watchtower. So there is no need to mess with it if you just want the player to be able to see the entire screen that they're looking at. But let's say I don't want that to happen. What if I want to change some of the properties of these? It is possible to do that, though every individual one will need to be done manually. For example, what if I don't want this refill to come back? If I go ahead and right-click it, here and directly on top of the scene, I can change this individual refill in order to have a single use. And if I click save, go back into my level, you'll see that I have a watchtower that I can't move because the screen is not big enough to show off more than it, as well as a dash crystal that doesn't come back when I use it. Using this, you can create a lot of different level design techniques, as well as different scenarios for the player to go ahead and solve that are a little bit more intricate than just placing down what the game gives you here in the level editor. But now I want to make things a little bit nicer looking. The easiest way to do this is through foreground and background decals. Decals are all going to be found underneath foreground and background. And the only difference between these two menus is where they are placed relative to the player. While all the foreground and background decals are shared between these menus, you can find every single one in both menus. If you choose one from the background decals menu, when placed in the world, the player will always walk in front of that decal. Meanwhile, if you choose a foreground decal, the player will always walk behind it. So, such a small detail can make a lot of difference in making the player feel a little bit more in the scene. Let's say, since I'm using the level 3 tile set in order to make this level, I'd like to go and put some background and foreground details based on the resort. In order to do this, one of the easiest ways to find all of the resort tiles for foreground and background is by putting the number 3 and then a dash behind it. Now, we have all of the resort foreground and background decals. So I can do things such as place a chair, place a carpet, though that carpet appears to be a little bit more on the wall. We can place a chandelier up here on the ceiling, and maybe a cloth on the wall. Now all of these are background details, so the player is always going to end up in front of them, no matter how they pass them by. If I wanted to make a foreground detail, where the player is able to pass behind it, all I have to do is look for the same 3 dash in the foreground decals menu. I can place down a bucket here next to our chair. I can place down some curtains, maybe a little bit closer to demonstrate, as well as a desk. Make our hotel look a little bit more user-friendly. Then we can save. And then inside the level menu, we can go ahead and see all the changes that we put down. We still have our watchtower in order to see the whole room. And notice that all the ones that we chose from the foreground detail, Madeline just directly goes behind. There's no way to get in front of these tiles. It's the same way that there's no way to get behind all the tiles that we put in as background decals. So our chandelier up there, we wouldn't be able to pass behind. This cloth, we always end up in front of. But this bucket, we're always on the back side of. When everything's said and done, all you have to do, save your level, whether it be save as for a brand new one, or just saving for one that you're working on continuously, and everything is going to automatically get updated to Celeste, thanks to Ahorn's direct connection to it. That's everything that I wanted to show today, so I hope it helps in making your levels. Goodbye.